Hi, my name is Mina Ricky,
And I am Lydia Korshak.
and this is Decode REI,
Discover your perfect real estate investment match with Decode REI.
your matchmaker in the world of real estate.
Let us find your investment soulmate and make your heart and wallet happy.
Today, we are interviewing Daniel Twito.
Daniel Twito graduated from U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in 2011 with a Bachelor of Science in Marine Engineering and commissioned in the U.S. Navy.
He has 5 years of experience working as an engineer and 4 years as an operation manager.
In 2012, while working full time, he began investing in real estate, buying and managing small residential properties.
And in 2018, he began to pursue multifamily apartment investing and operations.
He is the COO for Live and Joy Residential and also holds a Texas real estate license.
His expertise is in day to day property management operations and executing on multifamily value add strategies.
Daniel currently lives in Dallas, Texas.
Welcome, Daniel.
Yes, welcome to the show, Daniel.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yes, I was very impressed by our trip that we had in Dallas, walking your property. And I told Mina, we gotta interview Daniel because your properties and everything was amazing.
Very kind of you to say. Yeah, I mean we've been working hard over the last few years to get better and build up the property management company. And what you saw is, it's kind of like people say it's when people look at people they think it's an overnight success or anything like that, but really it's years and years and years of putting in hard work, and then one day people just notice.
Mina is laughing because I was supposed to ask you one of the funny stories being a multifamily investor. So why don't we start with that? So our audience would be entertained a little bit what it's like to own a multifamily unit.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, there are a lot of good stories, but I think that probably one of my, I don't know, just brings joy to my heart remembering, as we've grown the company, we didn't start out with 1,000 units. We started out with, some smaller properties and duplexes and fourplexes, and then moved up from there. But we still, I'm a licensed realtor. My partner's a broker. So, we're pretty involved in the day to day and, all the details and things. So some residents just need what my mother tells me it's EGR, extra grace required. So you just need to be a little bit more patient. And sometimes I have a lot of patience, but sometimes I'm a little less patient. So this lady on the property, she got a hold of my personal number. And so there's a 160 unit property. It's public, so I'm real. You can find it. It's not hard, but he got a hold of my number, and so this, like every couple of weeks, something would happen that, she didn't like. It could be, anything with the property manager or the maintenance, or, she saw this guy walk by the property and she wasn't sure what he was doing. And she was from Louisiana. So she would always call me and be like, and I know it was 318. I'd just be like, oh goodness, here we go. And I'd answer, hey, how you doing? And she'd always be like, Mr. Daniel, do you have a few minutes? Let me talk to you. It was just this most hilarious thing, the nicest lady in the whole world. But, kind of property management, multifamily apartment complexes and investing in apartments is really, it's a feel good business, because you're really impacting people's lives and the communities that you serve. And so, that experience specifically taught me a lot about just the customer service and wanting to do well for the residents. And I think that can be oftentimes lost, while you're being beat up by picketers in Austin or whatever, and people are screaming about, the inflation or whatever else. Landlords oftentimes get a bad rap for just doing what what the capitalist economy is that, bringing rents to market and being a fiduciary for investors. So, but, and that's one of our core principles at Live Enjoy Residential is just being resident focused, being empathetic to each resident's situation because we all have a story. So that it just is, that's one thing that, if you get in the multifamily business and you're wanting to buy properties, that's something you can remember.
Yes, and I love that. EGT, extra
E-
grace,
EGR, extra grace required. You ever
extra
work with a
grace.
difficult person? Have you ever worked with somebody who you were like, man, the guy just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't like how he said that. You just, you got to remember that. You need a little bit more patience, a little more grace.
Hey, everything is here just to make us grow, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't see it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. Hey,
that's
can I
good.
put the brakes a little bit on your story and actually go back to the beginning? What were you doing before real estate, and how did you get into multifamily, Daniel?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I went to school, I grew up in Iowa. I went to school in Long Island at the Merchant Marine Academy, which is a federal service academy. It's just the one that nobody really knows about. So I went and worked as an engineer for about 5 years after school. And I was doing all the things that I was taught in school and by financial advisors to do. Like, I mean, putting, the max 401k contribution, the max IRA contribution, and investing into long-term target growth funds, target retirement funds. And so I wasn't really seeing the results. And I thought, the graph they showed me was something like 8% compound interest. And I thought, what happens if you have like a year of negative 30 or even just a couple of years of zero? I was like, what does that do to the graph? Like 8% compounding looks pretty good. But if you do 1 year that's zero or a couple of years that are, negative, like it makes a big difference on what the actual outcome is. So I thought, okay, I need to really think about this and strategize. And so I started buying smaller residential and with one of the guys I went to school with, another engineer. And so I was still working and we were buying small residential. And this is before we even knew, we didn't have any education at the time. We didn't even know about bigger pockets, but we were doing the BRRRR method. So we were doing the buy, renovate, rent out, refinance situation. But even with all that, the bank still said, hey, there's too much risk, your debt to income ratio and all those things. So we didn't know how to scale. Once we got to a certain number, we were, we're stuck and we were feeling like the market was getting a little too hot. We were used to one unit cash flowing like $500 per month. That was where we started. So I was like, oh, these are, the numbers don't make sense to me. Like, man, we're not making enough returns that I was, wanting. So we kind of slowed down a little bit. And it was only until I got to Dallas Fort Worth in 2016 that I really started thinking about how to scale. And I started driving when I was driving around Dallas Fort Worth, you drive through, these large cities and you think, wow, like that's an enormous apartment building. Holy cow, that's an enormous hotel or commercial building. You're like, I started asking questions like, who owns that building? Who in the world owns that building? How did they get that building? I have no idea. And so, I started doing some research and getting some education and joining different mentorship groups and local investment groups and talking with people and just asking, I think that's one of the parts of growth, right? Is asking the right question. A lot of times people, you just don't know. You don't know what the right question is. So, and then we're taught or you get scolded once upon a time that, you're asking dumb questions and so you don't ask questions anymore. So yeah, I always ask questions and keep asking questions and good questions. You got to try to, formulate better and better and better questions. But those are the things that led me to multifamily. And then I was inspired by guys and girls that were in the business that were doing it and doing it at a scale that I thought was, probably just a few months or years before, totally impossible. Totally impossible. So many mindset shifts. I was like, okay, if I get my hands on when my engineering buddy and I were talking about scaling, we were talking about like a 20 unit property and a 25 unit property in Charleston. And like, okay, we got this one off market. It's totally run down, run by somebody out of state or whatever. And that was our strategy and thinking about it. And it was only until I saw what other people were doing in syndication and raising money that I realized that, okay, you could do a little larger property if you really wanted to, or if you had if you had the right team and you could do something bigger even. And this is how people are doing it. And so, the first property that I was involved in, so I passively invested in a deal because I want to see what it was like. And then the first property that I was involved in that you guys got a chance to see was Crossings at Irving. And so I've been working with a partner at the time or partner now, but at the time we were just talking, we met a local, investment club and we were talking and, we were not a lot of syndicators say they want to start a property management company. I mean, there's very few people and everybody says it's really tough and it is. It's not easy. There's a lot of pain, honestly. And in a lot of the day-to-day operations, it's just nonstop, right? Every day. I mean, Every single day I'm getting phone calls, and some people, they get into multifamily and they build the business because they don't want to take those phone calls. And as you scale, you can hire people that then you don't have to take, as you know, you don't take those phone calls, you take other phone calls that are more worse problems. The problems
Mhm.
are, you are the funnel. Elon Musk says the best. He's like, as a business owner, you are the funnel for the worst problems in the company. Like you don't get to hear you don't get to hear all the good. You just get the 10 minutes you get to spend with people is like, these are the worst problems I'm facing. Let's see how we can solve them. And so that's just I'm going off on a tangent, but so we started getting the multifamily. The first property that we syndicated that I was a part of was Crossings at Irving. That was 160 unit property in Irving. And one of the major reasons why I even thought that I could do it was because there was a couple that were also both engineers
Mhm.
working, in the corporate jobs. And their first property was like 180 units or something like that. And I just thought, if they could do it, I should be able to do it. And so, it wasn't like I did it alone. I absolutely did not do it alone. It requires a team and a track record. Typically, if you just said one day you wanted to start with a 160 unit property and do it all alone, I'm not sure if it's possible. It may be, it's probably possible, but it would be a little more difficult. So I had a team. There was other partners that were leading the effort. I was just a small player helping out. And so, but that was, that's where I started. And 5 years later, and 1,000 units. We've grown very organically in the last 5 years and focused a lot on operations and the multifamily property management. And we also self-perform all of our capex. And so
That's great.
that takes time, right? That takes time.
Yeah.
The the Rolodex of vendors, and then those things you could call one GC and make your life real easy or painful depending on how good they are. But so far today, we've self-performed on and all the assets and all the projects and capex we've done, and we've saved a lot of money that way.
Yeah. So you talked about vendors and the team and problem points. One of the biggest thing that I always ask that it takes a whole team to run these properties, especially having so many, apartment units, doors. Can you tell us a little bit who's in your team?
Yeah, my partner's name is Tanga. So Tanga comes from a 18-year corporate America background in IT, and he's also the broker in the brokerage company, which we got about 22 realtors. Primarily doing single family, new home sales. I
Mhm.
spend a lot less of my time in the realtor side of things, but so that's his background. And his other unique experience, there's about three things that are vital for success in multifamily specifically, I'll say.
Yeah.
And those three things are property management, asset
Mhm.
management, and then
Mhm.
IT. And so
Mm.
that's a pretty unique experience that my partner has that very, very few syndicators and operators have is those three skill sets. And so that's his kind of differentiator as a partner. And so his role is really CEO. He does a lot of the
Mhm.
strategic planning. He works
Okay.
for Accenture, which is a top three IT consulting firm doing major IT projects. And so he's really led the effort on a lot of the larger big thinking picture, things like that. And then I would say my differentiator, the thing that I'm really good at, and probably comes from played a lot of sports growing up, a lot of sports, like any sport I could get my hands on. And so, just I got a chance to work with a lot of different teams and sports teams. And so I got a lot of practice, working through our differences to be successful. And so from that side of things. And then an engineer, it kind of got, the analytical side of me is just there. And so I would say creating winning teams, creating winning teams and culture has been one of the things and getting things done, right? Like execution, like executing on the value add strategies in a way that brings success. So that's been, and really, I talked about this maybe in, another podcast or somewhere, but just, I talked to Janio about it, but,
Mhm.
finding a partner that really accentuates like, maybe your shortcomings or some of the things that you're missing. You want somebody that kind of fits in together. So you're adding value to them and they're adding value to you, if you both are kind of like on the same wavelength. I mean, you should be on the same wavelength, the same vision, but I'm saying like, if you partner with the same personality as yourself, like you'll still be missing the things that you're missing. So
Listen, you're preaching to the choir. Why do you think Lydia and I work together? She is like the numbers. Let's go. Let's do business. And I'm like, hold on. Let's see. How we feeling right now?
and that's a good thing.
You know what?
You should have some of this going on. Like it's a little
Yeah.
painful, honestly, because iron sharpens iron. You need to be that, like, just close the door, tell them, listen, we'll be friends after this meeting, but let's have a tough.
That's right.
Mina, I had an interesting experience the other day. I was showing properties to a family with 2 kids, and we had 10 to see. After viewing about half, the family was getting pretty hungry and they really just wanted to continue the other day.
So what did you do?
I went to my car and pulled out a bag of delicious Ricky jerky. They loved it so much they were able to continue our day without any issues. All the ingredients are 100% natural, plus every strip is seasoned, marinated, and smoked by hand to give you the best experience and slap you back into the gear. But I need to buy some more.
Oh, just head over to rickysjerky.com and use the discount code Decode REI for 15% off your first order.
So whether you're a busy real estate agent or just looking for mouth-watering snack on the go, Ricky Jerky got you covered.
That's right. Now, you said you are a team player. You learned that parents are you listening. The kids learn skills through life. The animal kingdom learns to behave as an adult through plays, through games, through playing, through childhood. So that's really cool. So you know how to work with a team, and then you have that engineering mind, and in a way you are different too. Thank God. I have a bunch of questions, Daniel, but I really love the story how you met Tanga. That is so
Oh
precious.
man.
Why don't you just go ahead and share it? It is so cool.
Oh, it's such a great story. It makes me laugh. I know, like, if I tell it publicly, probably this may be the only time I ever tell it. So, people.
Listen, it's only 2 listeners here, so that's okay.
Wow. When this podcast explodes and whatnot, so that's the disclaimer I'll share. But the story, is funny because we met at a local meetup and we were on a bus tour. So, basically what happens is they put investors or wannabe investors on a bus and they show them what's possible. They take them to the properties. They say, hey, this is how we bought this property. Hey, this one's for sale. This is the price. And this is how you could underwrite it. And, here are all the potential partners, and you could even raise money from these people. So they try to set it up in a way to really make you successful. And most of these education companies, I'll say, are doing really good stuff, honestly, and expediting the timeline, really, like shortening the timeline to wade through. Cause you're looking at YouTube and reading books, like, it's really difficult to sift through all this information and like just get the meat. I mean, it's like, unless you really know what you're looking for, then you can like bring more clarity. But it takes, like, you got to wade through a lot of BS before you get to the good stuff. And in a lot of cases, so mentors are doing that. Okay. So we're on this bus tour and I'm excited, man. I think this is my first bus tour, and I was getting my real estate license at the time. And I was sitting in, like, they've got the bus driver. There were like 5 buses. They got the bus driver, and then they've got the coaches. So the coaches are already in the mentorship group. They're already crushing it. They're living it up. They're having a good time. They've already had success. They're the ones like telling you like how good the mentorship program is, right? They're helping sell it, and for good reason. Like, they believe in it. They did it. They're telling you from their own personal experience. So that's pretty powerful. So I'm sitting, I'm sitting in the front row, right behind the coaches. Like, the coaches are in front of me with a microphone, and I'm sitting in the second row, and I'm sitting next to Tanya. And so we go to the first property. I don't think we spoke. I don't think we said anything. We don't go to the first property, walk around. He's got New Balance shoes that are barely laced up, like the white New Balance shoes. He's wearing a pullover jacket, like your starter jacket. It's a little cold out, and like mismatched pants. Let's just say they don't match. His outfit doesn't match. And I looked at him and I thought, and he walked around like he didn't talk to anybody. I mean, nobody was talking to him. People would come up to him and be like, "Hey, Tom, how you doing?" He'd just be like, "Yeah, what's up? How you doing?" And I thought he looked like he reminded me like of my grandpa. I'm getting emotional thinking about it because
That's a good partnership. That's what I gotta say.
I love my grandpa. And, he had a big heart. He had a big heart and he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot growing up, you know, in a good way. So we would go spend the summers at his house and things like that. So anyways, I looked at Tongue and I saw him and I thought, man, this guy reminds me of my grandpa. He's just making me laugh. I'm just dying. That's hilarious. I'm dying. So we get back on the bus and he's sitting next to me and we're sitting next to each other and people are losing their minds on this bus. I mean, like, they're like, we got a chant. We have like a chant going on the bus. They're like, we're bus number 2 and our chant's going to be, when I say, this, you're going to say apartments for life, whatever it is. Woo, going nuts. Kanga is sitting next to me asleep. He is dead asleep. He's sleeping. He's asleep. He's like this. He's just like this, asleep. The whole bus is going crazy and he's still asleep. I'm like, I gotta ask this guy. I gotta know what is going on. Like, why is this guy asleep? So I'm elbowing him. What, I'm like, and he's like, well, wakes up. He's like, what's up? I'm like, what's your story? Like, what's going on? Like, what are you doing here? Why are you even here? And he's like, yeah, okay. You tell me, what's up? I'm like, okay, I'll go first. I'm not too proud. So I tell him, hey, I'm going to be a realtor. And we had this funny banter. He's Indian and his English is improving, but 5 years ago, let's say it was worse. It was not as good as it is today. So I tell him I'm going to be a realtor, and he tells me, okay, yeah, I'm a broker. I'm like, okay. And I've been looking for a broker that focuses on investments. These brokers come to the school, and it was like Keller Williams and Coldwell Banker and all the other major brokerage companies. And not that they're doing anything it wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to get in commercial. I wanted to do other things. So I'd say, hey, do you guys do any investments? Do you guys do commercial? And they always look at me like, do what? They'd look around and be like, I think we got a commercial guy. You know, a guy who did commercial once upon a time, right? I'm like, oh no, these guys, it was all the same thing, residential homes and, pre-owned and, you got to create this marketing brochure and do all this. And I was like, man, I don't want anything to do with that. I was like, why am I getting my real estate license? Like, okay, I want to do investments, but let me figure out, okay. So I meet Tanya. I've been searching high and low, left and right for a brokerage company that focuses on investments. And so he doesn't know that, but he says, you got to join my brokerage company. And I'm like, I'm playing a little hard. I'm like, why would I join your brokerage company? Like, what do you guys do? Whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm like, so he goes in the whole pitch, like, okay, this is all I've done. This is what we're doing. We got this and that. We're doing all this stuff. And I'm like, all right. That sounds pretty good, actually. Okay, sounds good. So we exchange numbers. We start meeting up at Starbucks. It was just, what can I say? Like, we're having this conversation, and I think it's pretty rare. Just when you click with somebody, and I know it's goofy. Like, the dude's a 50-year-old Indian guy, and I'm a young, white American that grew up in Iowa. Like, you could look at us and go, how did that even work out? But while we were having these conversations, and Tanya's broken English, and while I was listening, I was like, we wanted to do the same things. We had a same, like, the vision was very similar. And we didn't just go out there and say, okay, this is what I want to do. It was like a back and forth, like tug of war, is like a little cat and mouse. Like, you tell me something, I'll tell you a little something. You tell me something, I'll tell you a little something. And we would just go back and forth. We did this for like months of talking. And we're working together. I told him, I said, I don't share this a lot. Again, I'm telling you stuff that, I really don't share much, but when I first started out, I told Tanya, I said, that, listen, for anybody that wants a tip in life, I'll just tell you, this is how you do it. Okay. I took it out of Napoleon Hill's book, right? So he walks in, I said to Tom, Jake, and Gino, I told this to Gino the other day. I told this is how I did it. You want to learn, if you're listening to this podcast, take it or leave it, but this is one way to do it. So I read Napoleon Hill's book, which totally changed my life. That was another thing that happened while I was looking at commercial real estate. Totally changed my life. And a lot of other good books I could mention. I could read, say a lot of good books, but that one specifically changed my life. And one of the things that he talked about was going to, I don't have it memorized, but I think it was Carnegie, right? Like, I think Carnegie was a guy who was front of the show. And I don't remember the guy's name that walked in, but he basically said, like, hey, I want to be your partner, but I'll do whatever job you want. So, like, I'm just thinking back because it's, sort of all that. So,
It's part of
um,
your story, Daniel, and
it's,
we're enjoying it. We love it.
yeah, no, thank you for saying that. It was very nice. Yes. But basically I said, hey, I know that I know how talented you are. This is the thing. It's, this is another thing it's really rare. But I said, I know how talented you are and how a lot of people can see it. I know how talented you are. And the funny thing is that he knew how talented I was. He knew that. He knew the potential. And so, like, very quickly, I would say we both have some very, very interesting experiences in life to be able to identify those things. I would say, in a very short amount of time. And so I said, hey, whatever you want me to do at the property that you're currently self-managing, I'll do it. I had my own company at the time, so I had extra time. I could do whatever I wanted to, basically. And so I said, hey, whatever you want me to do. If you ask me to do anything, I'll do it. And so, we started working together at the property, at his property at the time, 72 unit property, Northwest Dallas, Buckman Lake, amazing community. We just crushed it on that property in terms of we totally transformed that community. It was awesome. But I started going to the property. He just said, okay, try this, do this. Hey, try this, check this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Okay, do this, do this, do this. And I just was doing it. I didn't ask questions. Boom, 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 boom. Just whatever. If what he just said, do this. Okay, do that. Okay, no over. As best I could, as best I could. I would just give my best effort. Right. I'm not saying like, oh, I knew how to do everything and I was like the best at it. No, listen, if I went back, 5 years, if I went back to that situation, wow, it would be totally different. It would be totally different. I mean, like, but obviously it takes time to grow and learn and do this stuff. Like,
Yeah.
tracker, it doesn't come overnight. So, but that was how we built our relationship. That was how we built the trust. That's how we started doing, that's how the next deal we did just 6 months later, 6 short months later, we were
Mhm.
partners, true partners on 160 unit syndication.
Wow. Good
But
job.
it required, and I didn't ask for anything. I didn't ask for
Mhm.
anything. And I'm not saying that's good, bad, or whatever. I'm not saying like stroke my own ego. I'm not saying you have to. I was in a position where I could. I was in a position where I didn't have to. I think there were some, I mean, I knew where I was headed. And I knew that the delayed gratification, whether whether it worked out or not, I didn't care. Whether
Mhm.
it became a partnership or not, I didn't care. It wasn't my intention. It wasn't my goal. It was, if it worked out, it will work out. So organically, it will work out. And I was looking to add value. And I knew that the education that I was about to get was worth more than anything he could pay me. He couldn't pay me the money that I was going to learn for getting my hands dirty with somebody else's property at the time. And I had some, some smaller residential experience, but to have that opportunity and kind of like, it's not like I was at risk. It was a
Mhm.
bank loan. It was a recourse property, recourse loan. I mean, there's,
Right.
skin in the game, it's a recourse loan, fixed rate. But, when he asked the bank if he could take over property management, I mean, he didn't even ask. We just sent him an email like, hey, I'm taking over property management. And they were like, yeah, good luck, because what's the worst thing that happens? Like we take all your, like you're on the hook for
Yeah.
it at that point. So the bank portfolio manager was like, it's fine, go ahead. Like, you think you do better? Like, go ahead. So that,
That's good.
that's how that happened.
One thing I gotta ask you because we're almost at the time, believe it or not, time flies fast.
No
What
worries.
one tip to passive investors? Our listeners are basically professionals, passive investors. They're looking to team up with somebody like you who have experience and looking to grow their portfolio. So what one tip that you give them?
Man, that's a great question. I think the one tip I will give them is you should take the Warren Buffett style of investing to multifamily. And
Mm,
and what I mean by that is because I get beat up all day, every day for the fees that we charge. And listen, again, I'm going to shoot it straight here. This is the truth. So if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, do it however you like to. But I will tell
mhm,
you, as a passive investor, what you're looking for is you're looking for an operator with the goals aligned, meaning like upside on the deal is both helping the sponsor and yourself. They have a strong track record and you're looking for an operator that's a strong operator, that's setting it up in a fair way, but you're not looking for the cheapest fees, the cheapest
Mhm.
equity, the cheapest waterfall. You're not looking for
Mhm.
that because that's an inexperienced operator. You're looking to pay fair market or better. You want to play, we want to pay more. Listen, this is
Mhm.
multifamily real estate investment. Like 15 to 20% is the standard. If you make more than 20% annualized returns, you're well above market. This is the standard. The guys who write the enormous checks for me, $100 million or 5 million, whatever the check is, they're asking for like 12, 11. So remember that, like, you're the retail investor, 15 to 20% is the market. If somebody's promising more, I would be concerned. Like, why are you going to get me more? That's concerning to me. If they give me less, that's not good. It's 3 times whatever the risk-free rate of return is. So the day that's 6,
Mhm.
you should be getting 18%. If you're not getting 18%, don't do real estate. It's an illiquid asset. It's slow. You need to get your access to your money. Don't invest all your money. If you only have $100,000, I did. So I don't not take my own advice. When I had like whatever money I had, I went in real estate. I went all into real estate. I didn't diversify. So, but if you got $1 million or more, somebody goes real estate, you diversify across your other portfolios. If you really like multifamily real estate, and you really like somebody, we should have a diverse portfolio. But specifically to find the right sponsorship group, you should be looking for operators with a track record that are honest and ethical, that are transparent, that are working well, that have a resident focus, and you don't worry about their fees. I'm telling you, do not worry about their fees. You want that operator to make as much money as they can. I'm telling you,
Mhm.
if you tell them, I'm looking for an operator that doesn't take such big fees, I would say, what does it matter? You're going to get 30% annualized return. What does it matter? Why are you asking? Why are you beating me up about my fees? You worry about you. I'll worry about me. I'm telling you, like, that's how I want to do business. So if a guy tells me, oh, you're charging too much fees, I don't want to work with them. I'm sorry to say that. I know that's really rough. And your listeners, they may hate me for it. I'm happy. I'm happy. That's fine. But I'm just telling you, like, if you go beat up operators, I'm not saying new operators should take a haircut, right? They should take a haircut. Like, they shouldn't be charging the fees. Like, I'll show you the fee structure for ours. It's ludicrous. You know why? It's because I'm finding off market deals that they don't have access to, and I'm operating at a level that nobody else can. That's the truth. We're operating at a level that I wouldn't say nobody. I'm saying, like, but we're operating at a level where it's competitive. It's competitive plus. Like, we're bringing in
Mhm.
things that nobody else is doing. I tell lenders things that we're doing, they don't believe me. I could bring them out to my
Mm.
properties and show them what we're doing before they'll believe me. And then I'm like, and then they're like, and then you know what they tell me? They say, I can't sell that. I can't tell my investment committee that's what you're doing. Even though it's true, I can't tell them. We got to come up with a better story, a different story, because they won't believe me. I'm telling you, like, the things that we're doing we're, and again, this isn't me trying to be, this is an ego. This is an ego. I'm just telling you, like, we're doing things that nobody else is doing, and we're going to do things that nobody else has done. So, but, for your listeners, the advice that I gave before is, obviously the advice. So,
It's refreshing to hear the honest truth. There
Yes.
is no hidden fees, there is no hidden everything. This is how it works. And this is why it's worth this much. This is the amount of work. When I started studying the business of multifamily, I was so brave. I was like, I'm gonna do this and then I'm gonna do that. And I started really watching how that goes. And I'm like, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. So what am I gonna do? Right? Because it's a lot of work, it's a lot of responsibility. It's not just a job. There is a lot of grace that needs to be in
I'm
play. There is
perfect.
a lot of
I'm not perfect.
wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom that has to come through. There is a vision that has to come through. And then you are juggling with the real capitalism because now this is where people live. This is their home. So you can't be just playing cute games. So it's transparency, honesty is the best policy in this. I love that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it really is.
Thank
And
you,
when you
Danielle.
find somebody who's transparent, you look at their fees, you're like, I tell this, listen, I want to give too many tips away today. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, come back and listen to us more. We'll bring Danielle
Listen,
again one more
Lydia and
time.
Mina are like, Lydia and Mina are good about to correct me. I know where you guys are headed. This could be awesome. So, but
Thank
this
you.
this podcast is gonna be good. You guys are gonna be good. Hopefully you get some good listeners. Even if you got 5 listeners on today's podcast, and you post it, like, it'll be good. So, Hopefully,
I already know who I want to show this podcast to. There's a couple of investors that
Yeah,
would
me too.
totally love
Me
you.
too.
Yeah.
That they will definitely connect with you. I have one that's selling his building and looking for his capital to invest. So I'll contact. So contact. How can people
How can people
contact you?
contact you?
Yes. It was like,
well, I used to give away all my personal information. I still will. Well, I'll probably, and it's no offense to anybody. I'm going to build a team out where somebody is taking me. People can talk to me. Of course, I'm happy to talk. I listen. Like I take phone calls all day, nonstop. Like you'll may only get like 5 or 10 minutes. I will take every phone call, or I will call you back when I have a few minutes and we can chat. And I'm happy to chat with people. I like to help people. I don't see myself doing any sort of education thing. At least not right now. Like I don't have like multifamily education, like children's education. Yeah, I'll work on that, but I'm happy to be on things like this. So I appreciate you guys having me on here for sure. And people get a hold of me. They can call my phone. It's all public information. So my cell phone is 319-830-9034. Oftentimes calling is going to be really slow. If they text and just say, "Hey, I'm this person. I saw you on this
Mhm.
show. I'd love to have a conversation with you or talk sometime, fly out to Dallas, whatever. Or, if I'm coming through your neighborhood, I'm happy to drop by to grab dinner or lunch. You can treat me or I can treat you or whatever." And then, my email is Daniel, Daniel and it's a brokerage company email. We may rebrand one day, but it's L as in Larry, M as in Mary, Max, MAX Realty.com. So Daniel at lmmaxrealty.com. And then I'm on LinkedIn. There's a bunch of websites. LMX Realty is the brokerage company. Live Enjoy Residential is the property management company. It's so live and enjoy, kind of like that's the community feeling that we want to have. People just like live in it and enjoy living there. And then Invest Enjoy is the capital company, right? We're, kind of more like just brand and Invest Enjoy Capital. We haven't done a lot of marketing, but Invest Enjoy Capital is the capital brand. And, what exactly we do with that, we're still figuring out. But if, people want to get a hold of me, those are the best ways to get a hold of me. I'd say if they're like urgent and they're just like, I gotta get a hold of you immediately, like text will be the fastest way. So text me. If you want to get a reply at some point, it's not urgent, send me an email. Like just
Sounds
you can manage, like,
Yeah, sounds wonderful. And we want to thank you for joining us and sharing and giving yourself to the audience and just being so transparent and humble and just putting yourself out there. It's very brave. You are very young. You're starting you have a new baby, your
I
whole
do.
family, everything
I
is
do.
growing. It takes a lot of work and we just bless you and
yes.
really
Thank you.
brave
If
for
there's,
you to have this strength.
I was gonna say, if there's show notes, I think we're friends on Facebook. You got to grab the last picture I posted of Quinn, toss him on there. He's like the most adorable kid in the whole world. So
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll do that. Babies and pets. Yeah.
he's like, yeah,
We'll
pets,
use it
yeah,
as a
the pets
ad
are
as
cute
an
too. Yeah,
yeah. But babies are cuter in my opinion. They're
yeah.
adorable. So thank
no,
you again for coming over and we appreciate your time.